Hey, what's happening, guys? Dan Darrow here with another Options and Play video update. So, as is the case every Friday, wrapping up the week with the earnings on the radar video for the next week. Uh, we are through a good portion of earnings, but there's still plenty to look forward to. They're not going to be as many on a day-to-day basis, or not as many big names on a day-to-day basis, but there are still plenty of big names, and we are getting it into like that portion of earnings season when it starts to get more retail heavy, and that can be that can lead to some volatile action, especially because now we're coming up on the holiday season. So, like the guidance for retailers around the holidays really can kind of impact the stocks a lot. So, um, maybe not as much on a day-to-day basis, but still plenty of interesting things, plenty of interesting names, lots to look forward to. All right. So, Monday before the open, really nothing of interest to me. Monday after the close, Geo Grocery Outlet. New IPO, pricing in about 325 or so. Had a really great run out of the gate, but you can see just basically like a V top and just kind of right back down. So momentum really turning lower. It did have a pretty big move on August earnings here, but I don't know. I'm just really not convinced that that type of volatility is going to stick with this name for that long. So, it could be a mover, but I haven't traded in the past. Options seem a little pricey, so I'm probably just going to avoid that thing. 10 Cent Music, TME. So another newish IPO. They're looking for about $1.20 in that ballpark. I mean, we have traded this in the past, but as you can see, I mean, it's just really been kind of lifeless. Hasn't really given you a reason to do much with it over the last few months. Still kind of in a downtrend, and I feel like the first couple quarters have been kind of disappointing, at least from like a price action point of view. So I feel like it would have to be a really strong blowout number to kind of break it, because I mean, two quarters hasn't been able to move higher, and now it's kind of stuck in a downtrend with like a bunch of moving average resistance. So um, maybe what I'll do is wait and see how the numbers look, see how the stock acts, and then if it's good and it kind of busts through some overhead levels here, then maybe hop in for like a longer term swing. Tuesday before the open, AAP, Advanced Auto Parts, so retailer, 13 points. It's priced in there. It's definitely a little bit more of a consistent mover than like the AutoZone or the O'Reillys, but moves on this have been less volatile this year, and options are priced. I feel like more on the high side, just based off what it's been doing recently, because the volatility has been drying up a little bit this year. Um, so, it has on occasion moved quite a bit, but not recently, and the options are a little bit more expensive. So, it seems like a tough setup. So, probably just going to be an avoid. Kron. So, it's going to be a big week for cannabis stocks. About 90 cents or so is what they're looking for in this one. This is going to be the first of three to report next week. So, CGC and Tilray are also next week, and it's still stuck in a really serious downtrend, you can see, but option pricing doesn't seem too bad to me, and it's going to have that element of surprise because reports before CGC and Tilray. So I'm thinking, if I had to choose one of the three, I'd go with this because it has first mover. Option price doesn't seem too bad. It had a pretty big move just back in October. So there's there's like some people watching its participation here. Still pretty heavy short interest as well. So thinking some sort of volatility strategy, maybe like a straddle or strangle on this one, especially because you have CGC and Tilray coming up right behind it. I see. So this one is priced in at about four bucks. It's really like explosive, like kind of like an explosive growth name. You can see though that it hasn't really been acting that way, and it's kind of like trickling lower, and then bounced off the 200A. So for the most part, really hasn't been in play much for the last several months. It didn't have a huge move last quarter. The quarter before that, it did. It seems like a decent setup, but option pricing, I'm thinking, if you're gonna play this, probably got to get the risk down. I also don't know if there's gonna be a ton on top of for it, but I mean, it does seem like it could move. It's just, I mean, probably have to get like the debit down with like spreads or flies or something. After the close Tuesday, Datadog, so another new IPO here. 475 is what's priced in for its first report as a public company. It's a software stock, and software sentiment really still stinks. Not the easiest setup. I mean, first reports aren't the easiest setup to begin with, and couple that with the fact that sentiment in software is still pretty bad, kind of tough. And options are to me a little bit more expensive, just based off the lower volatility environment in software, right? I mean, like these software stocks really aren't moving a whole lot on their earnings, and they're really not getting rewarded at all. So, yeah, if anything, maybe look at something out of the money. Either way, just flyers to see if there's a big reaction. But I mean, that would certainly be way more speculative to me. Skyworks. It's got a couple chip stocks next week, actually a few. So 6 points what's priced in, and you're gonna hear like kind of like a theme with like when I talk about the semis this coming week. Run really sharply off of like a bunch of peer reports. So I just honestly like I really don't know how much is left on the upside on this. Seems like Apple or iPhone smartphone suppliers had great numbers. Obviously, Skyworks has moved higher off of them, and I feel like numbers are solid, but at the same time, expectations are super high now because it kept running and running on all the peer reports. So it's really like a tough setup. Options aren't cheap by any stretch, so it seems like an avoid. It's like I don't know how much is left in it, and it's up so sharply ahead of numbers that I just don't see like a compelling trade in it. SDC, Smile Direct, another new IPO. This one a little bit more interesting to me. 2 points is what's priced in, and it really got absolutely clobbered out of the gate. And there've been some negative headlines about their businesses. So, it seems like it seems almost like this first report is like a make or break for this stock at the point at this level, at the way it's behaved after its IPO. Options don't seem too bad. I mean, it seems like realistically there could be three bucks either way, maybe even four. Um, so the price in two seems like volatility's been higher, really underperformed. Seems like this was one that maybe more so than Datadog. I feel like the option prices do leave some room, so some sort of volatility strategy might be the way I look to play that. Tilray. So like I mentioned with Kron, Tilray, it's been a pretty big week for cannabis stocks. 325 is priced in on Tilray. Um, Kind of a similar setup. I mean, just a really, 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 really aggressive downtrend. I do like trading Tilray, but I also feel like Kron has that element of surprise because it's first. So I'm thinking I'll probably just stick with that. Maybe if Tilray has a huge reaction to Kron, then maybe I'll do something with Tilray or even CGC. YY. So actually a few China tech names this coming week as well. 525 or so is what's priced in. Still a little cautious on like this group. I did miss Baidu. I mean, I like that setup, but I really didn't know if it was going to like follow through on the move or not. Obviously it did, but I'm still a little cautious just on the group in general. YY is under its 200-day, and it actually really didn't move much last quarter. So, I mean, of the China tech names next week, this one seems a little bit less interesting. There are a couple other ones that are a little bit better set up, so probably going to leave this thing alone. Wednesday before the open, Goose. 5.5 is what's priced in here. Last quarter was one of the smallest moves it had on earnings in like 2 years almost. But I'm more willing to like go with like the historical action on this, especially with the holiday quarter coming up. Stock has been kind of range bound. It is underneath the 200-day. Seems like it has plenty of room lower. Could have plenty of room higher. I mean, just to get back to the high from a few weeks ago is about $7. So yes, the options are expensive, but I still think it could be a pretty big mover. So I think the strategy would have to get get that debit down though. So probably thinking some sort of spreads either way. Okay. So not China Tech, but China name. 2.25. That's what's priced in here. It really had like a dud of a first report, and it hasn't really been able to recover. So it moved greater than 4 points on those August earnings, and I feel like this technical setup still kind of interesting too. I mean, right at like a critical support range. Underneath, there's like a ton of room lower. It's to me it seems like more like set up on a bear scenario, especially after like the first quarter reported disappointed. So I do think though that at 225 the options aren't too bad from a pricing perspective. Although the setup does seem more bearish to me. SSYS 2.5. What's priced in. Played this in the past, but I don't really see a great setup this quarter. Volatility's been kind of lower on this thing for a couple months now. I will say though that Triple D has started to rally. It's started to turn the corner. You can see there. So maybe if anything, take like maybe like a low debit speculative bullish shot on this just to see if it follows Triple D. But that's like a lower conviction trade for me. Wednesday after the close, big tech name Cisco. 235 is what's priced in here. It got hit really hard after weak August results, and it hasn't recovered. So it's below support from this year. You can see there, right? And it's below the 200-day. And Arista, so another networking name, had just awful guidance, and it does seem to make Cisco more interesting now. Option pricing not too bad, okay, because I mean it moved over about 4 points in August, so 235, kind of an interesting technical setup. One of its peers just got absolutely rocked, so I think that there could be like kind of something along the lines of August, so like 3.5 to 4 points. So maybe like some lower debit straddles, something along those lines. NetApp, 5.5 points. That's what's priced in here. This was destroyed last quarter. It's come all the way back, closed the gap, and to me, it's really tough to figure out where the expectations are on this because it got hit really hard. It's come all the way back. Options seem expensive because they kind of got juiced after the August move lower. So I do think it could still move. I just don't know which direction I would lean, and I think that like I'd have to pick a direction because options don't leave a ton of room. So I'm on the fence, but maybe thinking at this point of leaving it alone more than anything. All right, before the open, Thursday, CGC. So like I said, big week for cannabis. This is priced in about 225 or so. But again, same story as Tilray and Cron. I mean, just in a really aggressive downtrend. So, I mean, by the time CGC reports, you're already going to have Cron and Tilray. So I don't know if there's going to be a whole lot left for CGC. But maybe if it has a huge reaction to those two, then you could maybe look to go the opposite way. But that's kind of the only thing I could think of at that point. Walmart, definitely one of the biggest names of the week. $5. It's about what's priced in here. Stock has been acting great. Recent earnings have been great. Sector still acts great. The problem though is that expectations are higher because of all of that. As the stock, kind of hovering around the 52-week high and coming off a few really good quarters in a row, it's going to be, really important to guide the holiday quarter very strong. So I am bullish biased on this, but I do think the upside could be more limited just because expectations are a lot higher and it's had a really big run. But holiday quarter guide, so definitely could be a volatile name next week. Wix. So kind of like a maybe like an under the radar like mover. It for a while it was like super volatile in earnings. Recently, not so much. They're pricing in 10 points for next week. I feel like it has potential because there have been quarters in the past where it's had some pretty big moves. And I think the way I would look at this is like it's stuck underneath the 200-day. It's had a bunch of mixed quarters. and I feel like that might set up better for like a bearish trade. Um, with like kind of like a bearish setup forming and like a history of kind of mixed numbers. High growth, high multiple stocks haven't really been treated well on like mixed numbers this quarter. So I'm thinking some sort of bearish strategy in this. Weibo. Okay, so got a couple China tech names coming up that look interesting. So Weibo, 5 points is what's priced in. So a little bit higher for the pricing point of view, but it finally broke through the 200A, and it really looks like it's trying to like turn the corner after like a long period of like underperformance. You can see what I mean. So really starting to get interesting on from a technical perspective, and I think this is going to be a big quarter for the stock. Um, I guess because they're reporting Thursday. I mean, like a lot can change in three days. So I'm gonna kind of see if it can pause above that 200A, maybe create like a little bit of like a quick base, and then look for some sort of like lower debit like upside strategy. If it keeps running and running and running into earnings, then I think I might leave it alone. But if it does kind of hold off, move in and kind of pause here, then it could be an interesting one. I mean, like look at this, look at the trend it's trying to break right now. Really interesting. All right, after the close Thursday, so AMAT. So you're gonna have two pretty big semi names. So AMAT 275 is priced in. I mean, Lamb LRCX Pier had great results. AMAT ripped along with it, and similar to Skyworks, I really just don't know how much is left in this because it had a big move off of the Pier earnings, right? Right at its 52-week high. Expectations are high. Maybe if it pulls back, I can take a shot. But right here, where it's at, it just seems really tough. So, as much as I have, as much as like I've enjoyed trading this thing in the past, I just really don't like the setup right now. Nvidia, so another one. 1525 is about what's priced in here. Very big name, obviously. I mean, a lot of people are going to be looking at this. A lot of people are going to be trading this. But again, I mean, it's just run really hard over the last few weeks, and it's just difficult to measure how much more upside potential this pattern has. It, you have to go back a ways, right? You can see that it's kind of above like some resistance range, right? Like the high 90s, but still, it's up a decent amount going in. Um, 15 and 25, those options certainly are not cheap based off what it's averaged over like the last like 4 quarters. So stock is up a lot, close to its 52-week high. Options are expensive, expectations are high. It's just it's like not a great setup. It just really isn't. I feel like a better scenario would be if it pulled back prior to earnings. Like, I mean, because it's Thursday after the close, that's 4 days. Maybe you get a pullback, then you can do something with it. But if it stays up here, even keeps going higher, then I'm just going to avoid it. All right, Williams Sonoma, they haven't confirmed yet, and the option pricing seems to indicate that it won't be next week. But it actually really seems like an interesting setup. So I'll circle back to this when they confirm. And you can see like I got a tight consolidation right underneath like the high from last year. So pretty heavily shorted name, tight consolidation. Um, so I do think it's an interesting setup, but they haven't confirmed their date yet. So like I said, I'll circle back to it once they do. And then JD Friday before the open. The other China tech name that I think looks interesting. So like 225 is what's priced in here, and you can see it just poked its head above a really key area of resistance, right? So there, I'll go back even further so you can see what I mean. So just poked its head above like this long-term area of resistance. It's had a few good quarters in a row, so it does have some fundamental momentum. It's got some technical momentum, and if they can deliver again this quarter, there really could be a huge breakout, or at least like there's a huge breakout that's taking shape. I'm definitely bullish biased on this, but like similar to like some of those other names, like I just really don't want to see it keep running and running and running the earnings because then I just don't know if there's going to be a trade left in it. So it would be ideal if it kind of just took a breather and just hung out here. and then maybe look at some sort of bullish continuation strategy. But again, this is 4 days away. A lot can change, and I hope it doesn't keep running, but I mean, definitely one that I have my eye on. All right. So, like I said, plenty of names, a little bit more spread out, and as we get into retail, you're going to see. You're going to see like a lot more names talk about the upcoming holiday quarter, and that could impact a lot of other things along with it. So, plenty to look forward to. Even though we are through like maybe like the heart of earnings season, still plenty of upcoming reports. And I did that biotech video on Wednesday showing that there's a bunch of biotech catalysts on the calendar. So, got a lot of events. Just have to know where to look. All right. So, if you like these videos, or if you're looking for trade ideas or just more information on options, please follow up with the link in the description of the video for more information on options and play. All right. Have a wonderful weekend, and I will talk to you on Monday.